To me, nothing says spring like strawberries. And now that spring has finally arrived, I'm going to celebrate it with a strawberry muffin. This is a muffin recipe you can obviously make all year round with the help of frozen strawberries. That way they have a consistent flavor all year round. But since spring has arrived, fresh berries are in the store, I'm going to use fresh. So, the recipe starts out with 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So we dip it in and level it off with a level surface like a knife. That's 1 cup. And 3/4 of all-purpose flour. Next, I use 2 types of sugar, 1/4 cup of light brown sugar for moisture, and to measure the light brown sugar, you pack it in there tightly. Because of the molasses in the brown sugar, you have much more moisture than you do in the regular white sugar. But the white sugar gives the sweetness that we're looking for. The beep you just heard, that was my oven. We're preheating the oven at 375 degrees. The muffins are going to bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So 1/4 cup of packed light brown sugar and 1/4 cup of regular white sugar. Then we have 1/2 teaspoon of salt to counteract the sweetness, and 2 tablespoons of baking powder to help the muffins rise. So that's 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I also add 1/2 tablespoon of cinnamon. It gives it a nice warm flavor that works really well with the strawberries. So, let's mix together all the dry ingredients. Okay. Next, for the wet ingredients, I usually just mix them all in 1 cup. They're all going in the same place, and that way you don't dirty another bowl. You need 1/2 cup of milk. So we always measure at eye level. So we see that it's perfectly equal with the marks on our measuring cup. It's 1/2 cup of milk, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, so I add 1/4 to 1/2 to reach the 3/4 mark, and 1 egg, which I just lightly beat into the oil and milk mixture. Just to break it up so it incorporates more quickly into the dry ingredients. Okay, before I add this, I'm going to add my strawberries. And the reason that I do that is because the strawberries are kind of wet. They have a little bit of moisture around them. So I want to get the flour around them to incorporate them so they stay suspended within the mixture of the dry ingredients, within the flour. Otherwise, you might find them at the bottom of the muffin. And that, to me, is not that great. We're not having yogurt here, right? So we mix the strawberries into the dry ingredients, coating them well with the flour so they'll be evenly distributed throughout the final product of the muffin. I can smell that cinnamon. It really works well with the strawberries because it kind of has its own kind of warm sweetness, so it works well with the sweetness of the fruit and the sugars that we added. We'll add in our wet ingredients and mix to combine it all. As you see in a minute, I'm going to have my pan prepared with baking liners, the paper liners, because if I didn't do that, I'd have a problem getting the muffins out when they're done baking. I'd have to run around with a knife, and then a lot of the muffin ends up staying in the pan. With the liners, everything comes out, and you just peel it off before you want to eat it. It also makes it more portable, I find, too. I like to take them to work in the morning. It's much better that way. So, here are my liners here. I have it in a 12-cup measuring muffin tin. Okay. I use an ice cream scoop to measure out my muffins into equal portions. If I used a spoon or poured it, it might not be as equal, and then we'd have muffins that would bake at separate times. So using an ice cream scoop, this is a half-cup scoop. It's the standard size of most ice cream scoops. They do make smaller ones now for cookie baking, but this is just the standard ice cream scoop. And one scoop will give you the perfect amount for each muffin tin. So I'll just go through and continue filling. Anything that drips on the side, like you see here, I'm going to clean up before I bake it, because otherwise that will bake hard on the baking tin and start to burn. So that would be a problem. So the last thing I do, I'll finish filling them in a second, but I always sprinkle a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cinnamon on the top. That kind of helps to echo the flavors that we put in the muffin and gives a crispy, almost strudel-like topping on the top. So that's always a little fun. So a little sugar, just a little sprinkle, and the same with the cinnamon. You don't have to measure, just freely sprinkle it on. Okay, from there I'm going to put them in my 375-degree oven. They'll bake for 20 to 25 minutes, and then they're ready to go. Enjoy them!